Welcome to the Society of Broadcast Engineers 2008 Web Conference. The 2008 SBE Webcast is made possible through the generous support of these SBE sustaining members. By Acridine Industries, AI, Satisfaction, Engineered. By Broadcast Electronics, the premier provider of mission-critical solutions for over-the-air and internet radio. By Microwave Radio Communications, communications for the world's toughest jobs. By Continental Electronics Corporation, the premier manufacturer and supplier of advanced RF broadcast transmission equipment. By the National Football League, proud to support the SBE and its engineers. By Superior Broadcast Products, serving the broadcast industry for over 20 years, supplying television transmitters, antennas, combiners, coax, and associated equipment. And by WSI Lighting, quality lighting solutions. Now, the president of the Society of Broadcast Engineers, Barry Thomas.
Hello, and welcome to the SBE's 2008 webcast. I'm Barry Thomas. I'm president of the Society of Broadcast Engineers.
And I'm Vinny Lopez, vice president of the SBE.
This webcast and satellite teleconference is a continuation of a series of webcasts from the SBE. Today's webcast is about the SBE activities since our last webcast and upcoming efforts by the SBE. This webcast is being viewed by several chapters as their monthly meeting, and we welcome those chapters. And we also know that many members will be watching individually. Following an overview of some of the recent activities of the SBE, we will have an open Q&A session for you to ask questions about anything related to the Society. We're able to take your questions by email, Skype, Instant Messenger, or by phone. Our email address is currently on your screen, and we'll provide more information just a little bit later. I want to thank Wisconsin Public Television for the use of the television studio tonight, particularly Leonard Charles and Paul Stoffel of SBE Chapter 24. Thanks also to Abacast for the online distribution services and the Space Connection for the donation of their satellite transponder time.
This webcast would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors. Without them, we would not be able to talk to you this way. Please make an effort to thank them for their support of the 2008 webcast and of the Society. This webcast is also being recorded and will be available as a stream through a link at the SBE website.
One of the important purposes of this webcast is to directly introduce you to the leaders of the SBE. You know the two of us, and on October 15th, the people you chose in the recent National Board election will take their offices. The SBE National Board of Directors is comprised of 4 officers and 13 directors. Today, the SBE leadership is me, Barry Thomas, as president, Vinny Lopez as vice president from Chapter 22 in Syracuse, Ted Hand, who's secretary from Chapter 45 in Charlotte, Ralph Hogan, treasurer from Chapter 117 in Arizona, and our directors include Cris Alexander from Chapter 48 in Denver, Ralph Beaver from Chapter 39 in Tampa, James Bernier from Chapter 5 in Atlanta, Andrea Cummins from Chapter 15 in New York City, Dane Erickson from Chapter 40 in San Francisco, Clay Freinwald from Chapter 16 in Seattle, Hal Hostetler from Chapter 32 in Tucson, Keith Kentner from Chapter 80 in Oshkosh, Jerry Massey from Chapter 86 in Greenville, Tom Ray from Chapter 15 in New York City, Chris Tarr from Chapter 28 in Milwaukee, Larry Wilkins from Chapter 118 in Montgomery. We're joined also by immediate past president Chris Scherer from Chapter 59 in Kansas City. He also serves on our board of directors.
Following the induction ceremony later this week, the new SBE Board of Directors for 2008 through 2009 will be Barry Thomas as president, myself as vice president, Ted Hand, secretary, Ralph Hogan as treasurer. Directors will include Ralph Beaver, Cris Alexander, Jim Bernier, Andrea Cummins, Dane Erickson, Clay Freinwald, Hal Hostetler, Gary Liebisch, Scott Mason, Jerry Massey, Mark Simpson, and Jeff Smith. Chris Scherer continues service on the board as immediate past president. Officers serve one-year terms, and directors serve two-year terms. The director terms are staggered so that only half of them are elected at each election. To serve on the board, an individual must be SBE certified at an engineering level. Those who are elected are expected to attend the 2 regularly scheduled board meetings in person, participate in board meetings by telephone when scheduled, and in most cases chair a national committee. Board members must cover their own travel expenses for these meetings. Serving nationally is not an honorary position. Each member has a responsibility to help lead the society as well as represent all members. The SBE appreciates the support that many board members receive from their employers.
The SBE is supported by a national staff at our headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana, led by Executive Director John Poray. The national staff includes Megan Clapp, our Certification Director, Holly Essex, our Communications Manager, Scott Jones, Database Manager, Debbie Hennessy, our Executive Assistant, and Carol Waite, our Certification Assistant and Receptionist. The SBE's General Counsel is Cris Imlay of Booth, Ferret, Imlay, Tepper of Silver Spring, Maryland. This is located just outside Washington, D.C. Cris, as well as John, Megan, and Holly are here, and we'll definitely hear from them later in the webcast.
So what has the SBE been up to? The short answer is plenty. Our Strategic Planning Committee has completed a survey that asked SBE members their thoughts and opinions on several of the Society's programs and asked them what future programs and services they would like to see.
We were in some ways surprised by some of the results and the feelings expressed by members as a result of the survey. You told us that we're doing the right things with our frequency coordination activities and our FCC activities. Educational opportunities are also a very important part of what you wanted to see more of from the SBE.
SBE has been hard at work on developing a new online education program. Education Committee Chair Cris Alexander and his committee, along with the national staff, have put many hours into developing various programs, getting them into a web-based format, and planning for the rollout. Cris unfortunately couldn't be with us in person tonight, but files this report on the upcoming launch of the SBE online training.
Hello, I'm Cris Alexander. I'm one of your board members and I'm chairman of the Education Committee. Over the last year, we've been working on a project to bring you online, on-demand educational courses. We envision these courses as being things that you just can't go get anywhere else, things that address the needs of broadcast engineers right where they work. We've contracted with a company that specializes in bringing together these kind of online educational courses, and we were promised in the late spring that the first courses would be available in the early summer. Obviously that didn't happen. There were delays that had to do with the contractor, had nothing to do with the SBE, but some significant progress has been made, and we're now told that beta testing of the courses that we've developed today will start in the next few weeks. We really hope to get these courses online and available to you by the end of the year. We're starting with 2 courses. The first one is called FM Transmission Systems, and it deals with FM transmitters, antennas, transmission lines, propagation, paths, siting, all of those kind of things. The other one is called Matching Networks and Phasing, and it deals with essentially the same things over on the AM side. Transmission lines, the matching networks, and the phasing and coupling equipment, phase budgets, things like that. We have these courses finished and they're essentially ready to go up. We have 2 additional courses that we're working on right now that are very nearing completion. The first is called Protecting Broadcast Facilities from Lightning. This is a hot topic, especially as we head into the spring months. Broadcast engineers will be looking for ways to minimize damage from lightning when it inevitably happens. The other is called Voice Telco Networks and Studio Interface Systems. We all have to deal with the phone company. We all have to find ways to get phone calls on the air, and this will help us to deal with that. There's lots of other things that we need to put up there for you guys. And you've told us what a lot of those things are. Some of the courses that you've told us you want are 8 VSB and other DTV related courses. digital radio, IBOC and otherwise, antenna modeling, specifically with regard to AM, especially in light of the new FCC rules that will permit using antenna models in lieu of a traditional proof of performance in an AM directional antenna. And then, of course, IT, as it has to do with broadcast. These are all things you've identified, and we need to get courses prepared. The problem we have is we need course authors. When we look to our membership to come forward to help us develop these courses, we don't have the resources on the board or at the staff level. These kind of things are going to have to come from you. And so we look to you to help us with these sort of things. Our goal is to make SBE the source for education for broadcast engineers, for continuing education, as well as for people who want to get into our business, to take them from where they leave off at the end of their college studies and get them into the job-specific training that they need to be a broadcast engineer, whether it be television, radio, or a related field. Thank you very much. We look forward to hearing from you, your comments and so forth, and of course we're always open to ideas and suggestions. You can email those to me. My email address is chrisa@crawfordbroadcasting.com. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you, Cris, for that very important look at one of the most exciting things we're doing right now, and it's going to be an important member benefit. In addition to this, the SBE continues to be the best source for broadcast and media engineering education through our Ennis workshops, our publications with our partner Focal Press, and seminars we're developing for use at chapter and state associations, as well as regional conventions. In addition, the SBE continues to offer the RF safety seminars and the leader skills seminars.
The SBE continues to provide educational seminars through the Ennis Educational Trust. Ennis workshops to date have been live events, including the annual Ennis workshop at the NAB convention. In fact, the SBE will have held 4 Ennis workshops this year with more than 450 people in attendance. SBE has published books for the broadcast engineering community since the mid-1990s. The SBE has a half-dozen titles that it has published in the past and now has an agreement with Focal Press, a division of Elsevier Publishing, to increase our publishing efforts. The first book produced through the SBE Focal Press joint effort was HD Radio Implementation by Tom Ray of SBE Chapter 15. Sales of the book, which was released at the 2008 NAB show, have been brisk. Also released last spring was Basic NEC with Broadcast Applications by J.L. Smith. Upcoming releases from SBE Focal Press include Antenna Zoning, Professional Edition, and DTV Monitoring and Troubleshooting. Look for these and other titles coming soon. As Barry noted, FCC issues were important to our members. SBE has had an active year in regards to FCC issues.
Joining us now is Cris Imlay, who has served as SBE General Counsel since 1980. He's also serving as interim chair of the SBE's FCC Liaison Committee. Cris is going to tell us a little more about our regulatory issues that we're currently addressing. Cris?
Thanks, Barry. SBE is involved in a variety of different advocacy programs. The House Energy and Commerce Committee consults with SBE on FCC oversight matters. We work, as Cris Alexander mentioned, with various different things having to do with the specific technologies of broadcasting. But really, it's all about spectrum and spectrum management. The reason that the SBE has been a leader in advocacy on broadcast auxiliary spectrum is twofold. One, historically, it fills a vacuum. SBE has been active in spectrum management and FCC docket proceedings regarding broadcast auxiliary spectrum because the other associations took more interest, perhaps, in the Part 73 primary channels spectrum. But the other reason, probably the main reason, is that broadcast engineers are the toilers in the fields with broadcast auxiliary spectrum. They're the ones who use it, and they're the ones who know about it, and we're the best source of advocacy for the protection of that spectrum. We've been very active working with coalition partners The NAB and the Association of Maximum Service Television and SBE have worked together on the 2 gigahertz transition. We've worked together in the opposition to the Clarity Trucker TV proposal that would usurp all of our broadcast auxiliary spectrum at 2 gigahertz for short-range multi-channel video programming at truck stops. We've been working on rechanneling of the 2.5 gigahertz band, and we've been interested in wireless mic issues.
You mentioned the Clarity thing, the trucker TV. That's one of those projects that just won't die. It's the threat on TV 2 gig that continues to come back, yet we continue to mount viable defenses against it.
Yes, the FCC seems to be very interested in any proposal that constitutes a new technology, some new use of spectrum, and they've really shown a little less competency in the area of compatible sharing of rare and overdeveloped broadcast spectrum. So it's important that our frequency coordination program assists with that. It's important that we continue to have our voice heard at the FCC. With a new administration coming in and a new FCC chairman almost inevitable, we're going to be working with the broadcast, the media bureau at FCC, and with the new commissioners to try to bring a little bit of technological understanding to the art of spectrum management.
Now, I know some of our viewers have heard some of the controversy on the latest wireless mic thing. Can you tell us a little bit about what we did there? Sure.
The FCC's just about ready to clear out the 698 to 806 megahertz band, and they've proposed to eliminate broadcast auxiliary operation in the 700 megahertz spectrum after February 17, 2009. Looking toward that, we've been very careful to advise manufacturers to please try to avoid some of the other available spectrum under Part 74 that would be incompatible with wireless mic operation. Some manufacturers have proposed to use 944 to 952 megahertz. We have a policy statement on that subject on the SBE website.
Well, thanks, Cris, for reporting on the important work you and your committee do on behalf of SBE members.
It's a great honor. Thanks.
The SBE continues to hear concerns about the source of the next generation of broadcast and media engineers. While many seem to feel that this is an SBE concern, it's really both an industry concern and an SBE concern. For broadcasting to maintain its infrastructure, it's going to need to develop appropriate talent for all the skill groups involved. The SBE's role is to educate, certify, and support the new people who select broadcast and media engineering as a career. The SBE is not blind to the potential of attracting young people into our field. The SBE has offered student and youth memberships for many years, and these members have been a part of established chapters everywhere. Still, it could be intimidating for a student to attend an SBE meeting where the average experience level is substantially greater than that of the average student. In 2007, the SBE chartered its first student chapter, Chapter 80.1. It's located in the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. Since then, Student Chapter Committee Chair Keith Kentner has fielded questions from at least half a dozen schools and has begun the process of identifying other schools interested in forming Student Chapter. For more information on student chapters, you can go to the SBE website or contact the national office.
Another wave of change that is on the horizon is in the emergency alert system. SBE has been a leader in helping to shape the next generation of EAS. SBE has provided suggestions, a roadmap, if you will, to all interested agencies and parties on what the future EAS should contain, and has offered assistance on setting up work groups to achieve that end. National SBE EAS Committee Chairman and Board Member Clay Freinwald is here to tell us a little more about SBE's initiatives on EAS. Clay, there's a lot of changes coming down the pipe. What can we look forward to?
Well, there's lots going on, Vinny, regarding EAS, and most of it is right now behind the scenes. At the FCC big meeting that they had, the big powwow here earlier in the year, Gary Tim had prepared what we call the SBE roadmap to get us from where we are now to the Common Alerting Protocol-based EAS system. As a result of that roadmap, there was a lot of effort and on part of a lot of different people as to how they're going to go about this. There was a lot of conversation, lots of meetings, and finally a group of manufacturers decided the thing that they wanted to do is to get together and work on a couple of aspects of that roadmap, and those specifically dealing with what we call the EAS cap profile, which is how to make the next generation EAS equipment work in conjunction with the Common Alerting Protocol and today's EAS system so that we have a transition. And the big issue here is how to have the manufacturers all together and make sure that what they produce is something that will be understood and workable in the field. And that's what's been going on, and they have just come out with their draft of their results of all that work, of those manufacturers working together, this working group, and it's available online. You can go find it now, and we'll provide a link for it on the SBE website. Does that answer your question there? Next thing we have is, of course, we're all wondering what's going to happen when it comes to equipment that we have to have in the broadcast station. FEMA has indicated that they're going to roll out the CAP protocol and their 180-day clock, as it's called, in the first quarter of this next year. Well, what that means is that we broadcasters are going to be buying new broadcast equipment. The good news is that the equipment manufacturers have been working on what does this equipment do, what capabilities does it need to have to be in compliance with the FCC's report and order. So with that in mind, the question is, where do we go from here? Well, we're going to have a conference call this coming Friday, which will be just a few days from now. And with that conference call will be a number of representatives from the SBE, the National Association of Broadcasters, the state broadcaster associations, as well as manufacturing groups, et cetera. And we're going to discuss that. The CAP profile group will sit down and determine where we're going to go from here. And right now it's a little bit unknown, but if you have any input, you have any thoughts, you have any ideas, the place to communicate those ideas is the SBE's EAS remailer. And you can find out how to join that by checking out the remailer information on the SBE website, www.sbe.org, under EAS. And we'd love to have you join the discussion at any time. You're certainly welcome to participate in that conversation. And there's a lot of conversation going on right now. A number of broadcasters have become suddenly interested in this, knowing that FEMA is going to be starting that infamous clock here next year. And a lot of questions are surfacing, as for an example, what about LP stations? Will we still have local primary stations, yes or no? What is Common Alerting Protocol going to do to our existing EAS equipment? Will we have to buy new equipment? What will it look like? So there's a myriad of questions regarding EAS that are being answered on the SBE EAS remailer right now, because our committee, the EAS committee, all of its members participate in the answering of those questions. So we urge everybody, whether you're an SBE member or not, to join that remailer. There are a lot of people on there that are not SBE members, a lot of government representatives from various entities. They all participate as well. So that's the place to go. Hope that answered your question, Barry.
It certainly got us down the direction because there's a lot more questions than answers right now, and I think we all understand that. But I really thank you for being here tonight. And I know that with the input from your committee and your leadership, we'll get some of these answers, and we'll be a good source of education and training for our members and education for the industry. Thank you so much for helping us shape the future of EAS.
Thanks, Barry.
One of the newest SBE committees, the Marketing and Public Relations Committee under Chairman Conrad Troutman, has been hard at work in the past year. The committee developed a semi-monthly email news blast called SBE News to all members with important and timely information that informs members in between issues of the signal. The committee worked with both the membership and sustaining membership committees to come up with new membership drive ideas and a special promotion at the 2008 NAB show with a 40-inch LCD TV and an HD radio being awarded to the member drive prize winners in addition to the other prizes.
We'll get to the Q&A portion of this webcast shortly. And I said that I would provide the contact information for you to do that. And this information, if you want to write this down, that's fine, but it'll appear again in a few moments. But we'll take questions via email, AOL Instant Messenger, Yahoo Messenger, Skype, by phone. You can send an email message to webcast@sbe.org. You can send an AOL Instant message to SBE Webcast, a Yahoo message to sbe.webcast, or Skype us at SBE Webcast. You can also call 1-800-348-9529. This information will also be displayed later, but if you can, write that down, and we'll collect your questions, and we'll go on to that in just a few minutes.
It has indeed been a fruitful year for the SBE Certification Committee. With the release of the DRB specialist, it marked the fastest that a certification level or specialist had been released in the history of the certification program. The committee is working on updating the TV operator book with new digital content. This is tentatively scheduled for a December 2008 release. Ongoing is a major overhaul of both Cert Preview and the certification exams, updating them for the digital era.
One of the foundations of the SBE today is the Frequency Coordination Program. This volunteer program has evolved from its inception 30 years ago to adapt to the changing needs of RF spectrum users today. While the RF landscape has changed, both FCC rules and in types and quantity of users, the SBE Frequency Coordination Program has changed along with it. One area of focus with the ongoing strategic planning process is to evaluate the needs and responsibilities of the Frequency Coordination Program.
Joining us tonight is Ralph Beaver, Chair of the SBE National Frequency Coordination Committee and SBE Board Member, to talk about some of the challenges that frequency coordination has faced and what the future holds for SBE frequency coordination. Thanks for joining us tonight, Ralph. What's down the road for us with frequency coordination?
Thanks, Vinny. It's a pleasure to address these topics. I've been asked many times if this frequency coordination thing is really necessary anymore, because it seems that the FCC has decided that if you have Part 101 coordination or prior coordination notices that ComSearch does, that a local coordinator is no longer necessary, that this is all being done by the FCC. This is not true. This is a simple rule of thumb. If it's mobile, it's yours. As a coordinator, if it's a mobile radio service, a mobile television service, an ENG truck, two-way radios, 450, 455, if it's mobile, it's yours, because those are under Part 74. If you get a request from an attorney that says that you must coordinate with your local coordinator, and they're talking about 2 gig coordination, that's legitimate. That is still the frequency coordinator, the SBE frequency coordinator. That is not PCN. PCN is only for fixed links. Let's talk a minute also about the home channel plan. With these 2 gig links on ENG trucks being reset in different markets on the home channel plans, every market seems to be having a problem embracing the concept of the home channel plan, or a plan to replace the home channel plan. Just remember that there are only 7 channels there in 2 gigs, and everybody has to share in the same channel plan. And that's what you need to do as a coordinator, is get the people together to talk about the plan. You don't have to solve the problem. Solving the problem is getting the people together. The people will solve the problem. As a coordinator, get everybody together, and you'll find out it just magically fixes itself. As a coordinator, your basic duty is to collect and share. You collect the information from Part 74 coordinators, and you share it with anybody who needs it, the local coordinators or the visiting people for coordination. We were also asked about FCC form advice. I understand now I have to get a license for Part 74, but I don't know where to get it. What form do I fill out? How do I do it? Where do I go? As an SBE coordinator, that's not your job. Filling out forms and how to do it and which form to use is clearly a legal issue that coordinators aren't even involved with, so you don't have to do anything. Just tell them to seek advice with their counsel and do what their counsel says. Another very interesting thing today is going to hit us very soon, February 17, 2009, when the DTV conversion takes place. Any wireless microphone,
Like the one you're using.
Yeah.
much like this, I love graphics too, above 698 megahertz, we call it the 700 megahertz region. Anything above 698, make a note of that magic number, will have to be eliminated February 17, 2009. Yes, You cannot use them. If you can't tune below 698, it's time once again for broadcasters to buy more equipment of some sort. The DTV conversion is a Part 73 conversion, but it certainly affects us in Part 74 when we're talking about these 700 megahertz microphone devices. Those are the high spots. I'm here if you have other questions about frequency coordination, and I believe you'll remind them of the numbers pretty soon.
I want to thank you for joining us, Ralph, and I particularly appreciate you being available for the questions afterwards. I'm sure we're going to have some questions coming up, involving frequency coordination, maybe the DTV transition, or maybe even our new event coordination efforts. So, thank you. That's an update of some of the SBE's current projects and efforts. The main purpose of this webcast, however, is to be able to take your questions, and we're ready to do that. We can take questions via email, AOL Instant Messenger, Yahoo Messenger, Skype, or by phone. You can send an email message to webcast@sbe.org, an AOL Instant Message to SBE Webcast, a Yahoo message to sbe.webcast, or you can Skype us at SBE Webcast, or you can call 1-800-348-9529.
Joining Barry and me to help answer questions tonight are SBE Executive Director John Poray, General Counsel Cris Imlay, Frequency Coordination Committee Chairman Ralph Beaver, EAS Committee Chairman Clay Freinwald, Certification Director Megan Clapp, Communications Manager Holly Essex, and immediate past President Cris Scherer. I think we have a question, Barry?
Yeah, first question. I feel like Larry King, but no. How often is the SBE reviewing its SBE certification requirements? And to answer the question is Cris Scherer, immediate past president.
And also a member of the certification committee nationally. The recertification process, like the entire SBE certification program, is actually sort of in a constant state of being reviewed and updated. Specifically, in this case, the recertification process, the basic groundwork of that was laid when the program was begun in 1975. But as, like I said, the entire program itself is reviewed on an ongoing basis, as are the requirements for recertification. Naturally, different types of experiences, different type of opportunities come into play, and they can be used as suitable experience for earning recertification points. And a lot of times they fit very nicely into some of the existing categories. There is sort of the safety catch-all, and it's the Category J on the recertification form, which is sort of a none-of-the-above type category area. And if you do submit points in the Category J area, which is items not covered under other segments, all we ask is that you include enough of a justification to explain to the people reviewing your recertification application as to why you believe that experience or that educational opportunity is suitable for those certification points or recertification points for which you are claiming points. And that's part of the process.
Our next question, just handed it there to Vinny.
Next question. How does SBE decide which FCC issues to comment on? I think...
well, I'll start with this, and then we have expert testimony.
Yes.
The communication efforts of the Society of Broadcast Engineers essentially lies ultimately with the president to execute the efforts and the desires of the board of directors, of the leaders of the society. And we've established through our FCC Liaison Committee a number of general agendas that we follow, and things historically we've filed on BAS issues, broadcast auxiliary, but we're not just restricted to that. But it's always an extension of board policy, what we're prepared to, what is important to our members. And we draw that from you. We draw that from comments we get from members. There's a number of procedures we're going through, and in fact, we're going through an evaluation right now to make our advocacy efforts even more responsive and more directly related to what you do and what makes your job easier. But I'm going to also refer to Cris Imlay, our general counsel, for some more cogent descriptions of that answer.
Right, exactly right, Barry. There are two types of FCC submissions that we make, reactive ones and proactive ones. Typically, FCC will release a notice of proposed rulemaking, and it becomes SBE's job on a timely basis to submit some comments or to respond to a public notice about a proposal that FCC has or about something that FCC asks for comment on. That's the reactive type of thing. We prefer the proactive approach. We would prefer to have SBE members' issues aired to FCC by us. We would like to be your advocate for what you want in the way of rule changes, what you need in order to further your business. And so along those lines, the Board of Directors taking advice from the FCC Liaison Committee, taking advice from individual members, and using the expertise from individual board members themselves, and a lot from the experts that Ralph Beaver has on the Frequency Coordination Committee. We take those input from those disparate groups, and the executive committee of the board of directors, or the board, or sometimes on short fuse issues, the president directly will instruct that a filing be made. We want to be as proactive as possible. That's the best way to influence FCC policy, and so we need to hear from you about what direction you want us to go.
One thing that I felt, that I've always felt very important, and it is a reflection of our roles as a society and our roles as broadcast engineers, is that we're responsible to our own employers, which are honestly in more cases driving greater policy, government policy, lobbying policy, and such as that, because we are employed either as contract engineers or otherwise. So what we have wanted to do is provide a program that channels the SBE member power, our efforts, our collective efforts, in a constructive way that makes your jobs easier and works within the confines of what makes all of our careers easier and better.
I wrote a Signal article recently about whether or not SBE's activities benefit the individual members or the employers of the members more. And the conclusion of the article was that it really doesn't matter, because if your employers, if broadcast management benefits, we all benefit.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're here to answer your questions tonight. Remember, you can contact us at any of the methods on the screen below, including 1-800-348-9529. Have a question here. How is SBE's budget determined? And for that, I think we'll bring in SBE Director Jerry Massey. He's chairman of the SBE Finance Committee, and he'll help us out and tell us how the SBE budget is determined.
Hey, Jerry.
Good evening. And the SBE budget is pretty much figured out just like you would probably do your own budget. First of all, we look at real numbers. We look at what's happened in the previous year and at the present time. Now, from there, what we want to do is generate a budget that is reasonable for you, the member. This is generated by a committee, of which I am chairman, along with 3 other members of the SBE. And we work with John Poray and come up with this budget that we feel is reasonable, and then we present it to the SBE Board of Directors, who will then vote on whether to accept that budget or not. And the Executive Committee during the year, if there's anything that needs to be changed, the Executive Committee has that capability of changing that. And that's basically how it's done, but always we keep in mind you, the member, because you pay your $63. We want to make sure you get the massive benefit for what you're spending.
I'll expand on some of that because it kind of touches on a question that I'm sure just about everybody out there has. I know, is with what's been going on in the last 2 weeks, how are we financially? And we are in great shape financially. We haven't lost any money because we have plenty of money to operate. And at this point, it's been paper losses that are unrealized because we haven't sold. But literally, we operate on a very conservative basis. We can do everything we intend to do, both dipping into our savings for long-term projects. We've got plenty to do that. We are in very good shape. Information on our finances and our board member our board reports will be available soon after this set of these meetings. You can get a better idea of what we're doing. But I think you can be confident that we're in great financial shape.
Financially, we're in great shape.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry.
And I hand it off here.
Okay.
The next question is, will the television certification change after February 17th?
Good question.
And I can tell you, yes, but to answer that question is Megan Clapp, our certification director.
Thank you. Yes, the certification exams will change beginning February 17th. They will start to add more digital content and start to, they will still contain analog information also, since it is still being used in the industry, but they will add more digital content to them.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
I just want to remind everybody as well that SBE as members, we need help on our national committees. If you have an interest in serving on a national committee, you can either contact John Poray or the national committee chairman, and we're looking for all the help we can get.
Well, and that's the case. That's I have a tendency to speak this this little mantra about what it takes to really get the society going. But one thing that I think is very important to talk about is what really runs the business of the society. Is that our day-to-day operation is operated by our staff in Indianapolis, and they do an excellent job. But everything new, every new program, every new development, everything we build up, every program that seeks to improve what we're doing, always starts with an idea and comes from a committee, comes from a group of people who say, you know what, that's important.
It could even come from a single member driving
and
a
it often does. Even down to the very beginning of the society began with the one person's idea. But the reason I bring that up is that we need your help. And if there's something that's important to you, something that you feel is important, and let me throw an example. I was just having an email discussion with a longtime colleague just a couple of days ago, and he is hoping that the SBE can develop a best practices document. And we've been working on something like this for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
And all it really takes is someone to say, all right, I'm going to start doing this.
A champion.
Yes, I'm going to start doing this. But our next question, you mentioned the 180-day clock, and they're talking about the FEMA's 180-day clock for compliance with CAP compliance with CAP requirements. You need to be able to receive and decode CAP messages for emergency messaging. What does this mean, and where can you get more information? And we've got Clay back to tell us all about it.
Okay, well, here's what it means. The 180-day clock is referenced in the FCC's report and order regarding the emergency alert system, and that's available on the SBE website. And if you read into the text on that, Barry, what you're going to find is they made reference to the fact that the Common Alerting Protocol is going to become the communications language from the sources of EAS information to the broadcaster. They also said that the requirement for us to have equipment that is compatible to the CAP system will begin 180 days after FEMA essentially approves or endorses the Common Alerting Protocol for that purpose. And we heard from FEMA in a press release here a couple of months ago that indeed they were going to do that. They were going to start that 180-day clock, and they indicated, in typical federal government style, being vague and careful not to pin down anything, that it would start in the first quarter of 2009. So from that, we are left to assume or presume that the 180-day clock will begin or will start ticking sometime in the first quarter. Now, it may be the last day of the first quarter, which puts the whole thing almost to the end of 2009. But that process is going to, at least from what we understand from FEMA, will actually begin in 2009, the first quarter. That clock will start ticking. At that point, we're going to start wondering what do we do now and what are our options? And if I could, we could perhaps dovetail into a question that comes in quite often, and one of the questions we received here, and that is, okay, does that mean I'm going to have to buy new equipment? And when should I budget for this equipment? And how much do you think it's going to cost? Well, that's kind of a slippery slope. I'm going to say if I was in your position, I would budget in 2009 for replacement EAS equipment. Now, as to what it's going to cost is anybody's guess right now, because only a couple of manufacturers have shown equipment. There will be many more that will. And what this equipment's going to look like is going to be quite different than what we see today in terms of its features. It will be networkable, undoubtedly. It will be, let's face it, the equipment we have today is something in the order of 10, 12 years old, maybe 15 years old in design. So it's going to be a lot more modern. A lot of it will be more feature-rich than some of the equipment we have today. But like today's EAS equipment, some of it will be very full-featured for if you're a television broadcaster or a news operation or a large broadcaster in a top 10 market, you may want the full-featured equipment. If you're in a small market, you may want maybe the more low-budget equipment. We're going to have to wait and see what the price points are before we can really answer that question. I hope that does it.
Wait, before I lose you, Clay.
Okay, I'm here.
Let me throw one thing. The EAS efforts that or the emergency communication efforts that we're going through right now, everything even leading up to CAP, was an outgrowth of an executive order. What's going to happen when we have a new president? What's going to happen to that executive order? What do you, and again, I don't mind, I'm crystal balling here. I'm just saying, what do you think?
And
what
my
do you
batteries
think?
are run down.
Yeah, I apologize because I literally have just thrown him to the wolves on this one. But literally, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think there will be a reactivation of a similar executive order, or do you think the whole thing will start over?
No, I don't think it's going to start over at all, Barry. I honestly feel what's going to take place here is that EAS right now, and along with a lot of other federal programs, and certainly things, as we well know out of the FCC, have kind of ground to a halt. But this is what happens in our governmental cycles. And we're running on low speed, with the exception, of course, of financial and banking crisis. But that's another issue. I think you're going to see a renewed effort on the part of whoever is in the White House and new administration toward making emergency alert system a very viable system. And there's an awful lot of pent-up demand to get this job done. And there's also a lot of criticism that's going on from congressional sources, broadcasters, and emergency managers, et cetera. So there is an awful lot of pressure to get it done, Barry, and I think we're going to see it get done. But we're probably in a little lull right now until such time as the new savior mounts the white horse.
Well, this is exactly the kind of discussion that happens on the SBE Roundtable and on the SBE EAS discussion list. These are both member benefits and things that we really encourage you to participate in, and that we really that have been tantamount into our developing our strategies and our strategies for helping this process along. And I want to thank you, Clay, for being the leader on this particular process.
Next question. Could you talk a little bit more about event coordination? Well, let's bring in Ralph Beaver again, Frequency Coordination Chairman, and let Ralph talk about event coordination.
Thank you, Vinny, I think.
Yeah, well, take it for what it's worth.
Event coordination often comes up in frequency coordination, obviously, because it's exactly the same frequencies we use all the time, the wireless mics, the 450, 455, the 2 gig, 7 gig, et cetera, et cetera. I did a survey recently and asked you, coordinators, if you wanted to be into event coordination, because the volunteer SBE coordination position is a volunteer effort and is not paid and is not event coordination. Event coordination is a very different animal. This is where you're going to take 50 or 100 microphones around a certain spot, a show or an event of some sort, and coordinate them so they don't interfere with each other, and that, most importantly, they don't interfere with the local broadcasters. Here's what I suggest. If you want to pick up the dollars, that's that kind of, okay, go ahead and do it. But most of you said you do not. But what you can do for event coordination is help your local venues. Take your performing arts palaces, your stadiums, their ball fields, or whatever it is, and teach them how to coordinate themselves. Have them put down every channel that they use on a sheet, every wireless microphone, every wireless device that they use. They don't have to say what it is, but just that they use it. Publish that sheet everywhere, where the trucks come up to hook up their stuff, the radio broadcasters, and everybody who is going to also maybe use a wireless device. Let them see what to avoid. Also, tell them what the market is like. Where are the active television stations? Where are the holes? Where are the channels that can actually do a wireless mic? Now, let them look at the sheet, and you'll find out that that job is already done, and you did it.
Well, I really feel like this is there's potential for member businesses in this area, but it's still at the genesis at this point. One of the best examples of an of a type of event coordination business or effort that we did was, of course, the NFL GDC program.
The best example.
And it is a quintessential singular example of probably the most complicated type of event coordination you can imagine, but it was proof of concept that we are the best qualified, best people to do this because we understand the circumstance.
Absolutely, and the NFL example is one I often hold up as being the correct way to do things. The NFL supports it in many different ways, but with presence and with teeth in what we say you can and can't do, with the equipment to do it with. I mean, it is absolutely the way to coordinate an event. Other leagues, who shall remain nameless, so their initials are MLB, NBA, haven't and Scar have no, they all have their issues. They all have the way they have to do their things, and they're not quite as aware as the NFL is of the need to coordinate. The NFL had some tremendous problems initially and solved them all. They're pretty much done. We have a few people that need reminding, and we're taking care of that now. But the NFL did it right. It's a pattern for others to follow, and it should be done.
And to that end, and we can go on to another question now, but to that end, the NFL has now understands just how critical this program is. It's now critical to their game operations, and they understand that, and they've taken a very active, direct role in managing their own determination in that, and we've been proud to be part of that, and we continue to be closely associated with the NFL just in helping them get it done, and they've been great friends of the NFL. But I have another question moving on to again, with certification and membership. So this question says, I'm not an SBE member, but I've been attending meetings. If I join, do I receive credits for past attendance? And he says, yes, I have been signing the attendance sheets. There's actually a couple of different components of that question, and our Executive Director, John Poray, has joined us here to help us answer it.
Thank you, Barry. Actually, you're right. There's a couple of things there, and there's a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding, I think, sometimes when it comes to membership and certification. The two are really not tied together, and I think our friend who's asked that question probably has some of that confusion going on. First of all, you don't need to be certified to be a member of SBE, and you don't need to be a member to become certified. So if you're a non-member and you want to join, there really are no points that you're building up in order to be a member or even for certification later on. You can apply for certification when you become a member and take an exam later on, or you can wait and take an exam later on and become certified. And then once you become certified, then the recertification process, that's when you get into the points where you accumulate points to recertify. So I hope that clears that up a little bit better.
The thing about the points is that SBE certification is not like a test that you would just study and cram for, and suddenly you don't need to know it anymore. It's a way of keeping your skills current, and it's a way of measuring that you've kept your skills current. Recertification point is a convenient way to do that. It's showing that you've attended seminars, that you've attended meetings, that you participated,
regional conventions, NS workshops.
Exactly. Participated as a member of your industry, and by doing so, then you are more kept up with the state of the art and therefore are continually qualified.
Right. Next question we're going to go to, can the SBE National website be updated more often? We're going to go to the newest member of the SBE staff, Holly Essex.
Thanks,
for that.
Vinny. That is a great question. We update the website as often as possible, but we also encourage our members to submit any changes or updates they have, whether they're regarding chapter updates or regional conventions. So if you have any changes you'd like to be made, please contact me, Holly Essex, at HESSEX@SBE.org, or visit the website for further contact information.
Now, did you remember I was talking about people, committees, people to help? This is one of those things where we can always use your help with information and content. I have another question. Let's see. This one's reading cold. This one is from Chapter 22.
Oh, lovely.
What is the National SBE doing to support the regional conferences and conventions?
We had, for the last couple of years, a regional conference and convention committee. What we found with that committee, we tried to bring together a lot of the regional conventions and conferences and tried to develop a lot of common practices, common ideas for sponsorship, events, things like that. What we had found was that most of these are autonomous and independent, and we tried to pitch a few ideas, but we didn't get a lot of warm response to it. We're going to keep plugging at it, and hopefully we're going to try and develop a few more regional conferences and conventions. There was a new one that launched in Roanoke, Virginia. I think you attended that in July of this year.
That's right.
Right, and that's going to run again next year. In addition to some of the existing ones, Syracuse, Pittsburgh, here in beautiful Madison, Wisconsin, the Broadcasters Clinic, which starts tomorrow and runs through Thursday. If you get a chance, come on out, if you're within the sound of my voice. But we're always looking for chapters willing to take on and help to develop a regional conference and convention. I mean, you can get a hold of me. My contact information is on the SBE website if you'd like more information or some blueprints or ideas for setting up a regional conference or a convention, anything like that.
Great. The next question is, and I certainly expected this one, it says, how is the current economic situation, how has it affected the Society of Broadcast Engineers? And we've asked John Poray to come give us some specifics, more than the glossing over that I gave you before. John?
Well, we're not immune to the markets, just like any other for-profit or non-profit organization. But luckily, as Barry alluded to earlier, our board did enact a financial investment policy several years ago that is essentially a conservative approach that puts our long-term investments heavily into the bond side and not so much into the stock side. That's intended to help insulate us from the vast swings in the market. Now, this has been all of a vast swing in the market we've seen in the last couple of months. So we felt that, and the overall value of our investments has gone down just like everybody else's. But SBE remains on solid footing with good reserves that can help us through rainy day, as well as give us funds for being able to start new programs or fund new initiatives. It also affects us from the standpoint that the interest and dividends that we receive on those funds is lower because we have a slightly smaller pool to deal with, and the rates that they're paying are slightly smaller. But bottom line, we are in good shape, and I think when the market does come back, we'll be in even better shape then.
Thank you so much, John. We're at the end of the hour, and we appreciate the participation tonight from the chapters, members, and visitors who've been watching. We have lots of questions that we've not been able to get to, but we'll provide answers to those individuals directly, and you can also join us on the SBE Roundtable with details at the SBE website. You can post questions there. You can always contact the SBE National office, and all of our email addresses are available on the website as well.
Thanks to Wisconsin Public Television for the use of the studio facility tonight. We would also like to thank the Space Connection for their donation of satellite transponder time.
As always, if you have any questions about the Society of Broadcast Engineers, please contact either of us, any officer or director, or the National office. Thanks for joining us, and have a pleasant evening.
The 2008 SBE Webcast is made possible through the generous support of these SBE sustaining members. By Acridine Industries, AI, Satisfaction, Engineered. By Broadcast Electronics, the premier provider of mission-critical solutions for over-the-air and internet radio. By Microwave Radio Communications, communications for the world's toughest jobs. By Continental Electronics Corporation, the premier manufacturer and supplier of advanced RF broadcast transmission equipment. By the National Football League, proud to support the SBE and its engineers. By Superior Broadcast Products, serving the broadcast industry for over 20 years, supplying television transmitters, antennas, combiners, coax, and associated equipment. And by WSI Lighting, quality lighting solutions.